Hi everyone, welcome to the Business Hub. We've got Noel from Facebook here today, and he's going to be talking about paid social media for us. We do have a QR code which we'd love you to scan and fill out just to provide some feedback. It will also pop up at the end of the session. We are also filming today, so if you have a question at the end, pop your hand up and we'll bring the microphone around.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Cool. Okay, so we're going to be talking about how you can actually create an effective strategy when it comes to Facebook and Instagram as well. Before we get into that, I'll do a quick intro about myself. So, Noel, I'm originally, as you can tell from my accent, from the Canary Islands in Spain. I've been here for 11 years now, and I've been at Facebook for almost 12. And this is me with my favorite Aussie mate that I met a few weeks back when I went to WA. So. Great trip. So with that, let's get into the content. So to start with, there's something very simple, but also very difficult to do when it comes to creating your own strategy before you start doing anything paid related on either Facebook or Instagram. And that's basically come up with your main objective and goal. So that will be the main thing that you need to be super clear before you come into the platform and run any paid activity, right? Make sure that you have your goal. Once you have your goal, we can start talking about who is going to be your audience. And from there, we're going to obviously go into how you can actually measure your success on Facebook. So when we're talking about how do you define your goals, it's a very clear way to put it, and a funny sort of way that we call it at Facebook, which is make sure that you set up SMART goals. That's pretty straightforward. But what I mean with SMART goals is like make sure that they are specific, that you can actually measure them, that they're going to be achievable, that they're relevant to you and your audience, and also that they are time bound. So make sure that you have all of these as part of your goals to be able to move things forward. So there's three main things that you need to be aware of when it comes to building any type of campaigns or ads on Facebook, and there are basically three main steps. Number one is to identify the objective for your campaign. And this is actually key. So I'll give a little bit more of information on that later. Once we have identified the objective, it's all about defining who is going to be the audience and where they're going to be seeing our ads. Once we have that clear, we can actually get a little bit creative and start thinking about the content and the media and the ad types we're going to be using. So let's start with identifying the objective for your campaign. So to put it like in a very simple way, our tools are great, but they also are very limited. What I mean by that is like, if you come to Facebook, you're going to see that you have different marketing objectives you can select from in the interface, and they are really good and effective. However, it's really important that you actually tell the system exactly what you're after. So if you have a campaign that is all about video, and you want to get people to watch your video, you're going to be obviously going for video views. However, if you actually want engagement as well, you're going to need to decide what's more important for your campaign, whether it's going to be people viewing your video or it's going to be like, interacting with your post. So that's something that sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure it out, but it's really important that you actually tell us what are you really after and select just one goal and one goal only. So, for example, if you were to look for engagement and people to comment, share, and like any of your content, you'll probably be looking at doing something like boosting a post. If you want people to go offline and check your URL, blog, website, or URL, you'll probably be doing something more like sending people offline with a learn more option. And then if you are very specific in terms of having an online store and you want people to come and purchase from you, you'll probably be looking at something like conversions and having a specific action like website purchases. So just to give you a few examples on how that will work, let's say that we have a local restaurant, in this case Party Stack, and they're looking to bring customers on weekdays. What do you guys think will be ideal for them in terms of the objective they should be using? Any ideas? Cool. So look, there's no right or wrong here. There's a few options that you could be using. I would probably suggest to use promote your business locally, because what that's going to do is like it's going to reach down all the people that live really close to your restaurant. And obviously, when you're thinking about like bringing people to your restaurant on weekdays, people are not going to be like likely to be traveling too far. So by doing that, you're probably going to be reaching people within your postcode, right? A different example, online store, looking to obviously increase the number of visitors coming to their online store and website. In that case, most likely you'll be using something like traffic, and make sure that you have enough website visitors getting to know your product and servicing online. So now that we have obviously defined the objective, it's all about making sure that we are reaching the right people in the right place at the right time. So on an ideal world, we would love to see everyone coming to the platform, either our Facebook or Instagram, to be our potential custom audience and people that are going to be interacting with our ads. Reality is that unfortunately that's not the case, not even for the biggest global companies. And you need to think long and hard on which type of people I'm going to be reaching. And those people are what we call the target audience that obviously you want to be reaching with your paid activity. Again, this is actually a difficult exercise to go through. So we have come up with a couple of questions to help you define the ideal customer. So there's a couple of things for you guys to think about when it comes to that. That's basically, what do they need? What is the typical customer need from me? What are their main needs? What will be some of the attributes that they will be defining them? And also, obviously, what motivates them to come and interact with my brand or service or offering? Once we have all of that, it's all about making sure that we come up with a relevant message for them. And we define relevance as the right message at the right time for the right people, right? Just making sure that whenever we are coming to the platform, we being relevant to people, obviously seeing and interacting with our paid activity. We get this question asked all the time, and it's a good question as well, to be completely honest. So where people should be seeing our ads, and there's no silver bullet for it, but I always recommend in as many placements as you could be. So good content is good content. Doesn't matter if it's running across Facebook or Instagram, or even like stories and Messenger as well. So you'll find that all the targeting options and solutions that we have, they work equally the same across all the different placements. And like most times, actually, by doing that, you actually open up your audiences by running across multiple placements. So you have more options to find the people where they might be. So now that we have obviously defined the objective and we know who we're going to be targeting, it's all about getting a little bit creative and putting the content and the ad type that we want to be using for our campaign. So look, I have a couple of examples here, and they all work really, really well. Now, the funny thing about this is even though they're using different type of ad types, images, videos, and stories, they were actually all after the same goal. So all of them, they were actually looking to create awareness on the platform. And I believe they've done a great job, and that's why we have them up here. I mean, you can actually see really, really well what are they after, what is the main message that they're sending, as well as some of the attributes. Especially the second creative. So if you see the video, it's actually a really good use of the video. So if you're going to be using the video on any of your ads, always think about design for sign off, but make sure that you do live for sign on. So if people were to opt in and listen to that video while watching the creative, that's extra value to them. So a few tips for you guys to think about before you come to the platform with any content. Make sure that your branding stands out, that it's easy to be recognized versus other competitors running on the platform. Make sure that obviously you find the right balance when it comes to timing, and that obviously tags along with the attention. Any time actually is a good time to be capturing attention, either across Facebook or Instagram. When it comes to obviously videos, make sure that you design for sound off. Don't expect people to always play videos with sound off, but if they actually opt in for the sound, that will be added value for them. So just think about that. How are you going to play that card? Framing. Just make sure that you are across as many placements as you could be. So that definitely helps in terms of widening your potential audience and reach. And then again, like, make sure that you have fun with it. Play and test and keep on learning, anything that you might be doing on the paid space. Cool. So now that we've done our homework, it's time to go back and see, obviously, the reporting and check the results that we have gained out of running our paid activity on the platform. So there's a couple of things that they get a little bit tricky, and it's just basically make sure that you're looking at the right metrics when you do that, right? So going back to the original example, if you have boosted a post, you probably will be looking at the reporting and looking at things like how many likes that I got, how many comments, how many shares, because that's basically the main metrics that you were after. If you, however, were promoting for people to go offline and check your URL or your blog, you'll probably be looking at total clicks and how many people went to your website, right? That'll be sort of the main metric you should be looking at. However, if you obviously were looking for something very specific, like conversion, that would be more like, okay, how many purchases that I got out of it, total purchases, as well as the cost per purchase as well that I got because of the paid activity that I just ran. So just make sure that you are sort of accurate when it comes to, like, looking back at the metrics in the report at the end of your campaign. I want to call out as well, we have a new tool, which is amazing. So it's sort of, it's been around only for about 12 months. It's called Creator Studio. And this is something that it really helps everyone, but in particular, if you're running different activity across different or multiple ad accounts and pages, it's a very good way to actually drop down and filter by ad account and page and get every insight that you might be after. It's also really, really good if you are looking after insights for Instagram. That's something that we didn't have before. There were some limitations in audience insights at Facebook in terms of like activity you were running on Instagram, and that's now available through Creator Studio. So just make sure that you play around with it. So I just want to leave you guys with a few key takeaways from today's presentation. So remember about the SMART goals that I described at the beginning. So make sure that you are smart when it comes to creating your goals. Nobody better than you in terms of knowing your product, your brand, your services. So make sure that you also make the most out of what you know about your customers to come to life on paid activity in either Facebook or Instagram. And then again, going back to the objective, make sure that you select the right objective, right? Make sure that you are telling us what are you after so we can actually help you to optimize for that. And the last thing is make sure that you keep on playing, you keep reviewing what you're running, and you keep up to date. So what might work really well today is not going to work again tomorrow, and you need to be up to date with things because they change all the time, as you probably know by now. Cool. So with that, I want to just leave you guys with a few free resources that we have available. So there's the Help Center if you have any questions on either organic or paid activity that you can actually tap on. We have Blueprint, which is basically the training that we all at Facebook go through when we start, which is everything that you need to know about paid activity and organic for that matter as well. And then Facebook and Instagram for businesses if you want to know what's the latest or even case studies. And the last thing that I got for you guys is make sure that you tune in and join our Facebook travel group. There's a lot of discussions, in the industry happening there. You can actually get to know, some of the product leads that we have in the company, and there's really good conversations happening all the time. So it's a global group. So yeah, please join us. So yeah, hopefully to see you guys there soon. And with that, I'm gonna invite my colleague and friend Fix to come and take all the hard questions you might have.
Thanks, Noel.
Thanks, Noel. Does anyone in the crowd have any questions or anything specific they want to ask the guys while they're here? Yep.
Please commence appointment 19.
I have a specific question, if that's all right.
Sure.
My digital agency started our Facebook account, and I want to take it back over to be the owner. Is that possible?
Did you hear the question?
My digital agency started the Facebook account.
Yep.
And we can't seem to switch it back over to make the business itself the owner.
Onto switching over accounts.
Yeah. I mean, there's a way to do it, and most likely the best way to do that will be through a tool called Business Manager, where you can actually link up any of your ad accounts with your pages and any of your running already activities. So that will be the best approach. Make sure that you talk to them about connecting business manager with the right ad account, and hopefully that will be able to solve the situation. Didn't? Have you tried already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And was the account already up and running before you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. It could be something to do with the fact that you were running before you actually link that up with business manager, and that might be something that might actually impacted the ad account because you probably did the association afterwards. So yeah, we can take the question later if you want. I can try to give you a hand.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you. I was just wondering about community management for paid social. I know for organic social, most people are all over doing their community management, but when you create an ad and put it out there, is it best practice for the brand to jump in and respond to comments? Could that lead to further conversion?
I guess it depends in terms of what are you after. Again, going back to what I said about the objectives you might have. I think that I find sometimes by receiving the feedback from people without going back all the time, you actually get a really good understanding on what my people will be expecting of you, rather than constantly trying to. Because sometimes it could be a very difficult or impossible task to do if you are a global company and you have thousands of people posting all the time. How do you keep up with that? So if you take that approach, it'll be depending on what you're after, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend on paid activity for the brand to be responding to every single comment, because then you sort of create that behavior and expectations, and every time you will to do that, people will expect you to respond and comment on that, So it's come down to the objective again that you might have for the campaign.
So perhaps not responding, but maybe just monitoring to ensure that you're across the sentiment
100%.
of the way that people are responding to your ad.
Yeah. And even I don't know, sometimes this is actually hard for brands, but even sometimes if you get one or two negative comments, obviously, sometimes it could be really harsh, but as well, it's a good opportunity for you to take that feedback and double check internally what we actually can learn from it, So instead of trying to switch it off or delete the comment, it's about how you can take that in and learn from it. Because obviously if people are talking about it, might be something that you can actually get better at as well. So don't take all the negative comments as a bad thing.
And I think to add to that as well, it's such a unique situation and specific to the platform where you're able to have that direct connection with your potential consumers and audiences, and it allows you as well to to engage almost in real time. So it is a great situation, to be able to do that as well.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi guys. I know Google has a thing where they do an audit of your ads account every now and then. They reach out and they ask if they basically want to review the account with you. Does Facebook have a similar service where they review your ads account with the client?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of audit the account, you mean in terms of give you sort of guidelines in terms of what are you doing right when it comes to your pay activity?
Yeah, that's right. So with Google, I think once every quarter, I think I'm on a phone call with someone from Google to go through the ads account.
Yeah.
Is there a similar service?
Yeah, very similar. I think it's depending on different management setups, how if it is with Google and with Facebook as well. So you'll have different support models. There's also dedicated teams where you're able to reach out directly through Facebook with particular questions and have that support
through the business
as well.
Manager that you can
it could be directly to a business manager as well.
There's a new feature as well, so you can actually see how are you doing in terms of feedback that you're getting. How are you doing in terms of policy as well? So how many of your ads are being rejected and why? So you can actually learn from that. That's actually all self-serve now available within Ads Manager. So you get actually a few sort of call outs in terms of if many of your ads are being disapproved constantly or all the time, or some of the creative that you're using is not really as good as it should be. You actually get a few notifications for you to be aware of that.
Yeah,
So that's
I just mean more in terms of Google suggests like, oh, you should improve here, or maybe you should try and do this, and you actually jump on a phone call with someone, which I quite like.
Yeah, I mean, we do obviously provide solutions report for the managed partners that we work with.
Yeah.
But again, we're trying to come up with more solutions for clients that perhaps they are not managed by any of the reps at Facebook, but we're trying to obviously give them a hand as well and support those businesses too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more? I have one quick question. If I'm trialing some ads for the first time with Facebook and Instagram, and I want to go for about a month, how many creative assets should I have?
It's a good question. I mean, there's no silver bullet there. I will say maybe you want to be doing a test for the first time. A month is a little bit too long because most likely after 10 days or 2 weeks, the creative is going to get fatigued. So I wouldn't be recommending going live for the first time for that long. I will probably set up something like a week to 10 days, and then I will actually review the creative and see, how is that performing for me before going and running it for as long as a month.
And with that, I mean, it's incredibly easy. So if it is your first time starting out on with Facebook and Ads Manager and managing, the way we've built in has really been just automated. So allowing for automation and scale. So kind of saves all of the hard labor and manual work from your end. So potentially you can create essentially one creative and have it run across multiple placements. So looking across Instagram and Facebook, making sure that you've set up the right objectives, so you're hitting, as Noel pointed out earlier, the right person at the right time. And it's incredibly flexible as well. So you can invest as much or as little as you want and plan out for the time. So it might be 4 weeks, it could be 1 week, really dependent on your business goals and what you're planning to do. So that's, I think, one thing that's really strong around the platform. Really takes all of the workload away from you. So just input in what you are trying to achieve, and we're able to drive that output.
Yeah, and the other thing to your question as well will be. A sort of best practices, we recommend to run between 5 to 7 ads, no more, within the same campaign, mainly because we have now the automation piece that will actually help you. Machine learning, we actually sort of optimize for the best 2-3 performing ads. So after a week, it's very easy to go back in if you're running 5 ads, and the system will actually already tell you who is actually winning the bidding, So that will be sort of where I'll be sitting 7 to 10 days, no more than 5 ads. That will be sort of where you want to be. If it's the first time that you're running, activity on Facebook or Instagram, yeah.
Thank you. Any last questions?
Oh, sorry, I'm very vocal. When you talked about branding being important and getting your branding out there, are you talking about, including that in the description copy that goes with your ad, or would you recommend that brands are including their logo in short videos or on imagery?
Yeah, so everything. So I guess before posting anything, whether that's going to be organic or paid, you just think about the message and how you want to come across, your audience. How do you want to be seen and perceived by your audience, right? So what is important for you and that post that you want to put up there for people to see? So, it could be an image, it could be a video, as long as that resonates well with the audience and they are easy enough to sort of recognize, okay, this is Tourism Australia actually posting, and it's very easy to see that whether that's a video or an image, body copy, just make sure that for people it's easy to digest that information. I mean, if you think about your own behavior, when you're scrolling through your phone, think about how much content you go through every single day. So you have basically sometimes a second to capture people's attention, and you're competing against, my friends and family, right? When it comes to your activity running on Facebook. So think about how you will actually win my attention, and doesn't matter how it is, whether it's a good image, a good body copy, where your logo is actually really flashy. It doesn't really matter as long as you're actually doing that job.
Yeah, it is all around that thumb-stopping creative that you really need to build for. And I think with branding and making sure, a few principles that we say that, have your objectives, but a few principles that work really, really well is having your brand up front and grab that attention early. We say, it's certainly within the first 3 seconds, making sure you're taking advantage of that. And again, with the phone, that is your real estate. It is the most expensive real estate that you could be going after. So making sure that you have your brand up front there early and often, I think works really, really well. We interestingly did an eye tracking study before we saw this research around what was actually the most important around how people are viewing the content. And what came through was the video is standing out number one. Then we're actually seeing the copy, so this is through feed, and then let's say the brand logo is there. So in terms of getting that thumb-stopping creative or something relevant, making sure that either your text or in your image or your video is the most important, and then you've got your copy to support that, so you're feeding that through.
Great, thank you.
Great. That's great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.